I may have made a bad choice. So if you're new here, my name is Josie, and I am currently querying my mountaineering revenge thriller novel that I'm hoping to one day traditionally publish. And so far, I've had one full request, and things have been really slow over the last month, I would say. Like, I've had a few rejections kind of come in. Usually it's the ones that respond like a day, and there's been a lot of them that have like been holding on to my query letter, which is like the cold query you send a literary agent, for over like a month now. So I decided to get a premium account to Query Tracker. So Query Tracker is like an online management form thing where a lot of the US agents are subscribed. So instead of like sending them an actual email, you just submit it through Query Tracker, Query Manager. So what you can do is you can pay for Query Tracker Premium, which allows you a lot of data. So you can like literally see what the inbox of these literary agents is like. So you can see every single query that gets submitted to them. You can see the genre and you can see the word count. And they can see if they've been rejected or if the agent has asked them for more materials. And so this has led to over analyzing the rejections because not every literary agent goes in order, and sometimes they'll skip over queries and you can literally see it, and I'll show you in a second. And people theorize that you're then put in a maybe pile. So potentially the agent is going through really quickly, rejecting all the ones that they can easily like say, nope, I'm not into this, and then come back later for the ones that they passed over, maybe because they weren't sure if they wanted to request it. And I've been taking full advantage this evening and going through like every agent that I've submitted to, and I think I might be in a few of these maybe piles. So I'll show you what it looks like. So here's an example. I've just selected for the past 30 days, and this is all genres, all queries, everything. So you can see like each of these rows shows you one of the queries that was submitted. So like this first one, if I click on it, it doesn't tell you the genre, but you can see the word count, and you can also see that it was submitted on March 31st. It is currently April 5th. And so this is one that I actually submitted not too long ago. You can see she's just rejected them all. And then you can also see the dates that she has rejected. So she rejected it like 3 days later. So she did a huge pass on April 4th. So here's the first one that she skipped over. This is It Me. But you can see another one she skipped over. Another one, another one, another one. Keep going. 3 more there. And then, where am I? I'm eventually. Yes, there I am. I'm this yellow one. So they highlight it for you because it's like your account. And then it stops here. So she skipped over mine, did 5 more, and then stopped. So who knows what this means, but I'll be thinking about it all evening. When I was first starting to query like 8 months ago, part of the reason why I didn't want to get Query Tracker Premium was, I mean, the reason I gave was because I would waste so much time refreshing and looking at stuff, which is true, but also because I just like haven't really allowed myself to spend a lot of money on writing. Since it is like a hobby, I feel like in some ways by like paying for things related to it, it'll like increase my pressure of needing to convert it to like a job instead of just being like a fun thing I do, and put like more pressure on just like the act of it itself. Like I've been writing in Microsoft Word for most of my life, but I finally caved and got Scrivener, which is like a first drafting or any draft really like writing program that a lot of people use. But I only caved and got that maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was after I finished a NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. So you try and write 50,000 words in a month. I think that program has ended. There was some controversial things that went down and it's over, but because I won one of those years, I hit the 50,000. One of the like prizes you could cash in was getting a discount on Scrivener. So it's only because I got to have it for cheap that I allowed myself to actually pay for it. So getting Query Tracker Premium similarly took me such a long time just because I don't know. I was like, I don't need this. I don't need Query Tracker Premium in order to query. But I have found it helpful, especially with dealing with the rejections, because it's so easy to be like in this like closed vacuum when you're just sending stuff out and you're just waiting for a reply and you don't really understand the context of everyone around you. And maybe that's for the best. You can like not think about it as much. But at the same time, like when you get a rejection, it just feels like between you and the agent. So with the different features that I've been able to look at on Query Tracker, it's made it a lot easier because, as an example, I got a rejection the other day and it kind of threw me for a loop because it looked very clearly personalized. Not only did they have my title in the query letter, which I think is like a pretty easy thing to do on Query Tracker and have it be part of your form rejection, but they had like a short phrase where they said basically like while I was really interested in this specific aspect of your book, and they used a character's name, they used a specific trope plot that I have in my book, but it just like didn't connect, whatever, the manuscript wasn't quite right. And I went down this rabbit hole of like, this was a person who could have loved my book. Obviously I was like so close, but just maybe my writing or where I opened the novel, like it didn't work, and I was getting so down on myself. But then looked at the comments, and I think without a Query Tracker account, you can't really look too far back, and I think you still get it with the free account. But everyone in the comments was like, yeah, she was really kind, it was personalized, she commented on this, on that, whatever. And then I literally saw a copy pasted response that she gave someone else, and they put it in the comments where, instead of saying what their title is, they'll just put like in parentheses like title here. It was a form rejection. So this agent does have your title in her form rejection, as well as I guess she comes up with a couple of words to summarize an important aspect of your book. And immediately I was like, oh, okay. So I wasn't super close because this is what everyone's getting. So that was a little bit misleading, and being able to see what other people got really helped me in that situation of being like, okay, I probably wasn't that close. I don't need to be worried about my manuscript. It just wasn't for her. And that's why like the basic form rejection, like, yeah, I groan a little bit about it, but I really do appreciate it because it's super easy to tell that they're just like, yeah, it's a pass. They say it wasn't the right fit for me. I hope you find an agent. Good luck, kind of a thing. And I really do appreciate that. Another thing I like to check when I get a little bit like down the dumps about getting rejection from an agent is I check to see how many thrillers they've requested in like the last year or 2 years. So I think it goes back 2 years is what you can see on the online data. And even though thriller is something they represent, and even though they explicitly state that they want thrillers, maybe a specific type of thriller, in their wish list online, which is where they put like what they want people to query them with, there's some agents who haven't requested any material from a thriller in the 2 years that are available on Query Tracker. And that helps a lot too, because I assumed, they're requesting thrillers all over the place. They obviously wanted it. It's one of the genres they represent. They have it on their manuscript wish list. But it could be that they do represent thriller authors, or they have in the past, but they just like don't have the space for that right now. Or they do like it, but they're prioritizing maybe fantasy or romance or one of these other things. But getting to see a little bit like behind the scenes of what's going on in these agent inboxes does really help me kind of center myself when I start to spiral about the rejections I'm getting, of like, no, it is really hard. Like, look at all these other people getting rejected. Like, don't focus on the people that are getting requests. Like, there's tons of really good books out there being submitted at the same time as you that aren't also getting picked up. So it's okay. I'm literally fighting for my life in this maybe pile. So, like, look at all the rejections. This is from the last time I think their queries were open, and then they open them again here, and then reject, reject, reject. They finally requested, I think this is actually today, they requested a manuscript, and then there's one more that's open, and then all these rejections, all these rejections, all these rejections, and then here I am just randomly in the middle. And I was like kind of nervous because like I was like, what if they didn't actually get to me in their second pass today? And then rejections, and then this is still today, so hopefully they passed over mine and still liked it. But like then the rejections just continue. So I am like the second to last open one since they've had a request. Oh, I am so stressed, but this is actually so fun to watch. I'm kind of having the time of my life, not gonna lie. I got a partial. I got a partial. Oh, I'm so excited. It's just the first 50 pages, and it's from that person I just showed, who I was like that third one down that she hadn't rejected. And I'm so excited. It's like 9 p.m. where I am, especially because with Query Tracker, I was looking back at like my first full request, my only full request, and that literary agent has requested like a bunch because I think she's like really actively growing her list. So it kind of discouraged me a little bit, just in the sense of like, there might be a long wait time before I actually hear back about my manuscript from her. But this person, there's nothing else beside the one I showed you. So, and especially because it's only 50 pages, hopefully she'll get to mine pretty quick. But I got a partial. I got a partial. Honestly, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I hope she loves it. But I'm going to send it out now because I'm not going to play hard to get. I'm just going to send it to her. I don't need to wait and make it seem like I got other things going on. This is all I've got going on. This is all I want to do. I knew there was no way I'd be able to go to sleep tonight after getting that partial request without getting some of my energy out. So I went and did some stationary bike for like 30 minutes, showered, feeling good. But honestly, there is no better feeling than getting validation from a professional in the industry that you have spent years of your life working towards, working to perfect, working to get better at. This is, I almost feel like I'm more elated by this partial request than I was by the first full that I got. And it's interesting because, like, my fiance, when I told him after being like, yeah, this is so amazing, he was like, how do you feel about getting like a partial instead of just going straight to a full? Because I think partial is like known to be like a little bit of like a remnant of the old days, right? Where you send an actual query letter in the mail to someone, and then they have to mail you back saying they want more material, but they don't want to ask for a full manuscript because it costs a lot of time and money to print that and send that. So they ask for a partial and whatever. So with email and with the internet, right, there's like a ton of storage. It's not as big of a deal. But to be honest, this doesn't bother me in the least because if an agent isn't going to like my partial, my first 50 pages, whether or not they have a partial or the full manuscript, like I think there's this misconception where when you send a full, the agent's going to read your full book, when that's like not the case, right? Like if they don't like it by page 50, it doesn't matter if they have another 300 pages after that, they're going to stop. So for me at least, like it's worth the same. An agent wants to read more of my book, and in this case, if they want to read more, they've got to reach out to me and I'll send it to them. And I kind of get a little bit more information in that way. But what was really interesting actually was with the full request that I got, it was through Query Tracker. And then I submitted my files on Query Tracker as part of like the same kind of conversation thing. It's not like a conversation, but it's like the same progress page that where I submitted the query. But this agent actually said to send the request directly to her email, and then she gave me the subject that she wanted in the subject line, and then she also wanted the query pasted in the body of the email. So that actually skews some of the assumptions that I've been making while looking at Query Tracker, because I was looking at some of her past requests and I didn't see that they'd submitted a file, which is that little, what's the word for that? Paperclip. There was no paperclip. So I assumed that there was no file that was sent back. And I was like, what author out there isn't sending their file to a requesting literary agent? Turns out it might just be that they're sending it directly to the email. So I am actually, I think, 6th or 7th in line. But because these are partials, maybe she'll get to it a little bit faster. I don't know. But I did want to give a little bit of like the stats of where this comes in my querying journey, because I think it's really important. Like my querying has taken a really long time. I've had a ton of rejections. I've sent out a ton of queries. I really want to be super transparent about the process and about how much has actually been going on and not just share the highlights. We are just under 8 months into the querying process. So this has been a long time. And the agent that I sent this query to was the 62nd agent I queried. This is why I'm forcing myself to send out 100 query letters, because you just never know when you're going to reach the right agent who's looking for your genre at the right time, interested in your exact premise. And now it's time to count the rejections, which is a little scary because I have been receiving a lot of rejections this week. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've had a total of 34 rejections and or CNRs, closed no responses, where I just didn't hear back and we elapsed the time that they said they'd respond into. So I've gotten a lot of no's at this point, which is why I am so excited. And this is out of a total of 86 query letters sent. So I still have to send 14 more to get to my 100 goal. I have 4 agents written down that I want to query in the next 2 months as their query inbox opens and you can send it to them. But otherwise, yeah, I'm actually really close to maxing out all the queries I want to send. But we do have a lot of responses to go. I'm still waiting on. I'm just sitting here checking these agent inboxes like usual on Query Tracker, and I think I found another potential maybe pile. And I figured let's have some fun. I will show you, I think, 3 different agents that look like I could be in a maybe pile, and we're both going to make guesses as to whether or not they'll actually request. I mean, at this point, I have a just about 4% positive reply rate because I've had 1 partial and 1 request, and then a bunch of 30 something rejections. So these are all 3 likely going to be rejections, but I just feel like I need you to be in this headspace with me of like, maybe, could it be? This is agent candidate number 1. So here we are in yellow, and there's a bunch of rejections, and all these actually happened today. And I'm just right here in the middle. There are a bunch of gaps even just above me. Like, look at this big gap right here. There's another gap there, there. So there's like, it looks like there's still quite a bit of weeding that needs to happen. But being kind of on my own in this sea of red makes me feel at least pretty good. And then there's like rejections below as well. It's been a handful of days, and that big gap that was above me right here has been filled in with rejections. There's still a ton of like these gaps above, but she hasn't also seemed to have requested anything from this like round of her inbox being open. So we'll see when she actually starts requesting. Lock in your answer because it is a close no response. We have just passed the date I had in my Excel sheet for when she would respond by, and we've heard nothing. She hasn't been on Query Tracker in like the last 2 weeks, I think, and so there hasn't been any more rejections around me. Kind of just look the same. But in these sorts of situations, I prefer to just put it as close no response and move on because I don't want to just keep thinking about it and keep hoping. Like, sure, she might come back and reject fully, or who knows, request something. But for my own mental health, I just need to mark it as a no and just keep moving forward. Agent number 2, this one's a little iffier. So I feel like she went through these 4 and then skipped mine, that being one of the 4, and then she also went back and rejected these. But again, there's a lot of empty space above, like a ton of empty space. So it's really hard. Oh, and then this is her usual. The purple means she made an offer. But this is like, all of these are mostly rejections up here. So this is kind of like the end of her open inbox, I feel like. And then there's a bunch of gaps with like random rejections, and then there's just this cluster around me. So who knows about this one? I actually marked agent number 2 as close no response, but then I got the rejection. It came through literally a couple days later. So no luck with this agent either. And then this one looks like another case of like I made it through the first pass. So I'm like the 3rd one in this gap. And then there's just random rejections above, and then random rejections below. So it doesn't quite look like a finalized maybe pal, but there could be some hope for me here. I just heard back, and you can probably tell from my lack of excitement. It was a rejection, which is a bit of a bummer, but she did send a personalized rejection, and I can tell that because I can compare to the rejections people have posted on Query Tracker. So I don't know if that makes it worse or not because there wasn't any like constructive feedback. It was just like, we really liked these 2 aspects, like specifically naming characters and naming plot points, but it just like wasn't enough. So oh well, on to the next. We have a bonus 4th agent. So I woke up and these are all the rejections from today. And it looks like they skipped over one. So there's still, again, some weeding out that needs to be done. But I did check, and I am the oldest thriller query to still be in her inbox. So I just heard back. So do we think rejection, request, another rejection? And this stings in 2 ways. First, I really like this agent. I really thought I matched like her wish list and what she wanted. I really liked her and her client list. So it's a little bit unfortunate. And I like built up in my head because the second part that makes this hurt is The backside of being able to see all this is I feel like you get so excited to just like hear back because you're slowly seeing the agent work through their inbox and you're like, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen now, like this week, next week. And then when it finally does, so much of the time it ends up being a rejection. So it just gets disheartening to get into this cycle of like getting excited because you're like, oh, they're going to answer me soon. Oh, okay. Why was I so excited? There was nothing to be excited about. They just rejected me. As my list of agents on Query Tracker gets more and more into the red, more and more rejections, makes it a little bit harder to face that website every day. I think I finally reached the natural conclusion to my Query Tracker premium obsession of checking it almost all the time, being like, will there be a change? Will there be a change? Because the truth of the matter is, there's not a lot of changes going on. It takes a long time for literary agents to get to your query, even as they're skipping your query and doing stuff around you in their inbox. Like, probably good that I've lost some interest in just like constantly checking, but it's been fun. I have no regrets getting premium. I think I have it for a year because it's like $25 for a full year. So it'll still be there. I can still check it. And it was really fun to kind of get that insight and see what's happening behind the scenes. But I think this is where I'm going to leave you. Thank you for joining me on this Query Tracker Premium adventure. And the querying continues as always.